Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Real PR with me, Fiona Scott. I really hope you're having a great day, great month. And whether you're watching this in the evening, whether you're relaxing on the couch, you are running, you are whatever it is, I hope you get some value from today's insights. I'm joined by a fellow PR and marketing guru called Gemma Finch, but I will let her introduce herself. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Welcome, Gemma.
Hi, Fiona. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm the founder of Burford Creative. So we are PR, marketing, comms, whatever you want to call it. We are based in the Cotswolds, but we do cover nationwide. So a bit of a large area to cover at times. So yeah.
Take us back then. How did Burford Creative come about, Gemma?
So my background has always been marketing. I started out in marketing 25 years ago. That makes me sound older than I want to sound.
Not as old as me. Not as old as me.
So I basically, I went self-employed in a different business. Last time I got made redundant actually from my last ever marketing role. And I ended up doing a bit of freelance marketing, and I was always dealing with the marketing for my specific businesses. So I had an equestrian business, and then I went into pubs and hospitality. So I also did, the marketing for all of those. And then during COVID, obviously the pub that we had was closed. My children were a bit older. Not that old, but old enough that I didn't need to be at home looking after them all the time. And I really wanted to go back and do marketing full time. And people kept asking me to do it. So I thought, I'm just going to go for it. Why not set up a business in the middle of a pandemic? It's great, why not challenge yourself?
But if you can do it then,
yeah,
you're probably going to be successful, aren't you?
We hope so, yeah. I basically started in the October, I think it was, that I really put myself out there. I got so busy by the end of that year that I had to take on somebody, interview 2 people. The first 2 CVs that I saw, actually, loved them both, couldn't decide between them. And I thought, just go for it, go all in, take them both on, and I'll work out how to get the business later. And it just kept on going, and it got busier and busier and busier. And now we're a team of 5 full time, and then photographers and videographers that we work with as well. So
brilliant. Okay, so we work in similar areas. People might find it strange that I'm interviewing someone who could be seen as a competitor of mine, but I've always preferred to think of us as collaborators, bringing different skills.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think collaboration is key, because ultimately we all want the same goal, which is to get coverage for our clients, and we can help each other in that as well. There's going to be certain, areas that, I might call you and say, look, I've got this great thing. It's, I think you've probably got greater contacts in this area. Why can't we work together on this? And vice versa. And I think actually ultimately we want to give the press and the public the information they want to hear. And we may as well help each other do that. So I think collaboration is better. And if we all work together, I think the end product is better as well.
I totally agree. And also, for me, it's not just about being greedy. If we're all successful earning something.
Yeah, there's more than enough business for everybody out there, I think. I don't see any businesses that run themselves well doing badly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're there and you're giving a good service and you're giving your clients what they're looking for, you will be successful, I think. I'm always trying to find service providers, and it's a nightmare because so many people don't look after you.
Yeah.
And often I rarely look at somebody's price. I just go and I think, do you give me a good service? And if they do, they've got my business forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the freelancers I've worked with for years.
Yeah.
But no, you're quite right. And I'm sure there will be times when we will work together.
Yeah.
We've only just really met each other at Cotswold Networking and are learning about each other. Now, you move in a far more rural sort of environment than I tend to do, Gemma. So talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, I'm really lucky to live in the Cotswolds. I absolutely love it. We're so fortunate. It's slightly different, I think, in that we've become, a lot of the businesses are kind of aesthetically based, hospitality. It's all about experience and kind of lifestyle and things like that. And that then goes towards, I do quite a lot of work in London that teams up with the Cotswold side, because there's parts of London that are very closely linked with the Cotswolds. So I think it's a bit of a different approach. I think it's a longer game as well. I think people have to spend a lot more time thinking about brand and positioning, because it can be a bit... people can be a lot more choosy than they are in corporate or, in really strictly B2B, I think, because you're selling people a dream a lot of the time. And you do get a really good feel for what certain journalists are looking for as well, the way they write their articles, the experiences they want to show their viewers. So that's quite nice, actually, because it does take away quite a lot of the guesswork when you're trying to say, oh, which journalist would I pitch this to? And they have very clear lanes in this kind of area, I feel.
Yeah. What's your view then? Because one of the things I often say about PR is when I see PR companies saying things like, I can get your story in front of 400 journalists, which to me just means they're sending out to a database, and they're not really being specific at all.
We can all do that, right? You just put it on the wire and it's there and it's fine. And, we know it's cost you £200 to do that. And if you've charged 500, then you're 300 up. But I don't think, you might get a bit of digital digital views on that, but it's not really going to deliver value to the client, I think. But equally, you hear some clients will be like, oh, well, I got in the Daily Mail, and you're kind of like, well, that's great, but, did you get anything from being in the Daily Mail? And the answer is normally no, because the audience is way too wide for them. So I think it's actually much more important, I think, to try and be really honest with the clients and say, look, this actually takes time. What we do is build relationships with people over the long term. So if somebody comes to me and said, oh, we're looking for great Christmas breaks in the Cotswolds, they know that I can give them a whole list of ones that will be suitable for an article. But that's because over 10 years, I've been talking to people in the hospitality press and that local area. So, it is quite important to be really niche down in that sense. And you're right, you hear this all the time, but yeah,
it's not,
it gives PR a bad name, actually, because they're always the people that then go, well, we've paid for PR, but we don't ever get anything from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for me, it's quite different. I tend to work a lot with individuals who, want to be thought leaders, and that's my sweet spot. And I have to say, I do use the wire.
Yeah.
To give them visibility, but I'm always very honest about it.
Yeah,
this is just one tool in our toolkit.
Yeah.
And I was immediately thinking you were saying that. I was thinking of my friend Jane, who writes property stuff and did a brilliant article in the Sunday Times with one of my clients who was just asking last week, do you know anyone who's got a beautiful property that we can do this, that and the other? Now, just talking to you now, I'm thinking, God, I could have put her on to you.
Yeah.
Because that would have been your sweet spot.
Totally, yeah.
Whereas I've got one client in that area, and that's great, but she's already covered him in the last 6 months. She's going to do the same thing.
I've got a great property client who's got some really lovely Cotswold properties.
And I suppose we've just demonstrated, just in chatting, that collaboration, we've all got different contacts. We've got different type of clients. I'm very human interest led. So the fact that I work with a client who happens to have a beautiful home, to me, is like a side note to them.
Totally.
Whereas for you, I just know Jane would be a brilliant contact for you because she writes about property all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll do that. Don't leave without me giving you her information. But the other things are that I sometimes think small business owners or even bigger business owners either have had bad experience of PR companies because they've been promised too much, something that can't be delivered,
totally.
Or they just have a very odd preconceived idea of what we can deliver. I mean, I am putting you on the spot here, but can you think of any conversations you've had with potential clients where you thought it's never going to work?
Oh, I remember this really, really vividly, actually, and had a conversation probably a couple of years ago now, when a lady approached me to do PR, and I pitched and I gave the quote and what have you. And it was on a retained basis because she wanted various bits of coverage throughout the year. And I said, look, working on a 12-month basis would be really suitable for you because we can take our time, we can craft the stories, we can try and get you into various things. And she turned around to me and she said, oh, well, my last agency worked on no result, no fee. And I said, oh, why aren't you working with them anymore then? And she said, oh, well, they've gone bankrupt. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah.
And I just said to her, I said, look, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I said, I'm never going to work like that. It's not fair on either party and it's totally unrealistic. And, you know, if you feel that works for you, that's great, but we're not the firm for you at all to work with. Because it should be a partnership and you should both have the, you know, realistic expectations of how it works. And it takes, you know, as you know, it takes cooperation on both sides.
Yeah.
When you're trying to work with a client that's not giving you anything,
you can't.
It is, you're like pulling
It's
teeth
impossible.
out and you're kind of, you know.
It's impossible.
It's not my business. I can't do all of this. I can do a lot of the work and put you in front of the right people, but you do need to engage. And, you know, I'm sure it's the same for you. It's a real frustration at times.
Yeah. When I get things, the key thing for me is if someone in the first conversation says something like, what's the return on investment?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, because I'll do my bit. Will you do your bit?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, in terms of media engagement, you can't just do that. That's a nice to have, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But you have to be active on social media to widen your networks. You have to use that media engagement. And you need to be able to sell. And I can't make you sell.
Yeah, I think that is actually a really, you know, sometimes you have to have some hard conversations with people, because if there's something wrong with the sales process, no matter how good your PR and marketing is, you're not going to sell something. The even harder conversations is if something's wrong with the product, because a lot of the time this is people's baby and you do get blinded. And sometimes you do have to have a hard conversation and go, is this right, or is this priced right? Have you done your market research? Because amazing amount of people haven't done that.
Oh, no.
Because they just go, this is my idea, it's great.
Yeah, and loads of people are going to buy it. How do you know? How do you know there aren't other things out there that are cheaper and better?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you haven't even done a modicum. I don't specialise in product placement at all, but I have got clients that do product.
Yeah.
Talk to me about sort of... you can base it on a client you've got, or it could be hypothetical. How would you work with a company that wants to push a product or a series of products?
This is one of the reasons why I really like working with people on retained basis, because if we do that, we spend a portion of time at the beginning of the contract doing a lot of analysis and strategy work, because I always say to people, do this bit first. And I love companies who are happy to work like that as well, because they really get the value. It's not kind of like, oh, we've paid our bill, we suddenly need all this content to go out. So actually that's our first bit of time, and we look at the market and we look at their competitors and we find gaps and make suggestions sometimes. You know, I've got a client at the moment who's a really very, very high-end jewellery client, which is brilliant, but we found a bit of a niche for some really, really standout male jewellery. And we found an influencer, or actually a musician, but he's, you know, online as well, who was actually really keen to work with them. So we're designing a collection specifically for that, because he came to me and he said, I can't ever find jewellery of this calibre, but something for a man that doesn't feel dated. So, you know, I kind of just went to my client and I said, look, I know that you've designed these women's collections and they're beautiful and it's wonderful, but I feel like the market's trying to tell us something here, and I think you should look at it, because I don't think there's a massive risk to you. You don't have to invest a huge amount of money.
That brings me on to, I was interviewing someone recently who is a specialist in packaging, and we talked a lot about unboxing being a thing, particularly on social media, which would be brilliant for your client, wouldn't it? Unboxing, and we talked about Apple and things like that. But how important do you think influencer marketing is and is going to be?
I think massive. I think we need to get away from this. This goes for all social media, actually. This big perception that it's free, because we all have it free at the point of use. It's really not free. I think, number one, the acceptance needs to be that social media is a pay-to-play model if you want real big traffic and results. We can all grow channels organically, and that's great, but for big results, I think we need to look at paid. But on, influencers, a lot of them are incredibly talented and really skilled, but they should be properly compensated for work they do. And I think there is a real kind of just, oh, well, they're an influencer, let's just give them some free product. And I think for a lot of people, it is their job, and they should be, if they produce content that's of a standard that a professional's produced it, they should be paid accordingly. So, and this, of course, is different, there's different scenarios. If you gift a family a load of, tickets for a theme park, that's monetarily, that's actually worth quite a lot of money. So there's obviously, nuances to this. But I think it's going to become even more important, actually. But I think it will probably be on a lot more professional standing. And I think we'll be taking our negotiations a lot more seriously, and a bit more accountability on both sides, actually, which I think is not a bad thing.
Yeah. I was just looking at PR trends for 2025, and one of them is that, influencers are going to be more professional. And therefore, you can have more of a business discussion about what is and isn't acceptable.
Yeah.
And in your case, the one you've mentioned about your jewellery client with someone who's a musician, I doubt that he's going to be out there saying, look, I bought this product from here and you can click on this link and get this. Because that's not going to be the right tone of voice for your client.
No.
It's going to be more subtle than that, I'm guessing, Gemma.
Yeah, no, very, very much so. I mean, the kind of, we're putting him in £40,000 bracelets. So it's kind of very much like, actually, we just want somebody who looks great in the jewellery and is actually in front of the right audience, which he is. So it's a little bit different. But, we do the same. We've got other clients as well. We're literally about to just send out a load of influencer gift boxes for one of our clients' products. And that's, again, go back to the unboxing.
Yeah.
So we've been, the branded wrapping paper, the whole experience, how they open it, giving their followers discount codes, these kind of things, because that's what they value, because it helps them grow their channel. It helps, give themselves sort of prestige in front of their followers if they can get discount codes. So there's so many different ways of doing it, but I think we just have to always keep in mind that ultimately everybody in the arrangement has to benefit, and that's really important. And I'm very, very much about fairness, even if it costs people a bit more money.
I agree, though sometimes it doesn't work very well. I recently had, I've got a client that produces food products, so fairly low cost. The unit cost of the product's quite low. And an influencer put out a request for products for a gift guide. The product was supplied, turned up, they let me know it had arrived. And then they came back saying the product was great, they really loved it, and it would now cost me £250 to be included in their gift guide. So can you just explain to those listening or watching, what's wrong with that? What's the difference between that and paying, say, the influencer who's going to look after that high-end jewellery? What's the difference?
Well, it's just the laying out of expectations, isn't it? And also, that's then cost you money already, because it's cost you money to donate the product and to send it. And I just think all business relationships should be based on transparency, and it's fine to ask for money. That's not a problem.
No.
But you have to, you can't ask for it retrospectively.
No.
I mean, it's like the awards that you then have to pay to receive.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I write about those.
Yeah, you have one, but you need to pay £500 to use the logo. So it's, I just think it's about transparency and, let people make a decision based on facts.
That's right, because then you don't waste your time on someone that's never going to spend, and you commit your time to someone who gets it because it's bespoke to what they need.
Yeah, there is plenty of people I would pay £200 to create content. Plenty of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So would I.
But we'd have the conversation before.
Yeah, and what would we get for that? Not just something that's
Exactly. Yeah, it's really God, that's really bad.
I know, it is unusual, I have to say. And the platform that sent the request through, I contacted them and they said, no, we don't allow that. It isn't that they don't allow influencers or bloggers to ask for money, but it has to be in the initial The initial call, I suppose.
Yeah.
The initial request has to say, in order to take part in this, there's a fee of.
Yeah, definitely. That's really important.
And Gemma, have you noticed, as I've noticed, because I do a little bit of work in America, so I've noticed it more there, that the way the media works and the way they ask for money is changing massively. There's more paywalls, charges for backlinks, things like that. I think the media's going through a change, which is entirely necessary. People don't want to pay £60,000 to advertise once somewhere anymore.
Yeah.
What's your experience of that been?
I do think as you say, everything seems to be behind money now. It's becoming harder and harder for just genuine organic content. I think this is, there's a slight issue as well with the fact that, I think reporters are maybe scared to go and seek out that information because they don't know quite what they can write about sometimes. There's, so much litigation and things like that. So I think I agree. You're going to we're kind of coming full circle with paper advertising, whereas before everyone advertised because you just did and you had your advertising budget. And now we're going to go, well, we're digital, but actually we're going to have to pay now anyway. Whereas before it was a much lower cost, or you could get something out that would be free for a little while or whatever. So I think actually advertising is moving into a new era. I think we kind of moved away from it with social media before it became its actual business model, which is advertising.
Yeah.
We had that sort of golden period, didn't we, of 5 years of like organic growth. You can get massive audience on social media without paying. You were shown a lot more because the algorithm hadn't quite worked out what was going on. But I think we're now probably flipping back to advertising. And I think when we also then start looking for this earned media, your collaborations also with paid is going to pay more of a part, that you're going to have to form those relationships, and your foot in the door is paid advertising. And then we, move on and develop the relationship a bit further with that. And
also, I think even with local media, and often with local and hyper-local, these are small business people trying to make a crust exactly the same as you and I.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I do get quite annoyed sometimes when I hear PR people bang on about earned media all the time, which for me is not realistic in the modern world we're in. There has to be a degree of both.
Yes, I agree. It's part of the marketing mix, isn't it? And I think this was really interesting. So when I came on your PR day earlier this year, and when we started going through the whiteboard of what's, what is PR?
Yeah.
And, 25, 30 years ago, it was taking journalists out for lunch.
Yeah.
And buying them enough wine that they would write about you.
Yeah.
And now we have this entire whiteboard.
Yeah.
What is PR?
Yeah.
And I heard somebody else, I'm trying to remember, a Bacchus agency, I think it was, really big London agency. And they were saying, we just call ourselves comms now. We don't call ourselves PR because the mediums of communication now are so vast. So our jobs have become much wider because if we're doing PR, we have to do it on all these different platforms and all these different mediums, because there's so many more ways for people to consume stuff now.
Yeah.
Whereas before, it was the paper.
Yeah. I mean, as the journalist part of me laments some of that, but, there are far less employed journalists now.
Yeah, definitely.
They're under a lot of pressure. They are not just journalists telling stories. They are sub-editors. They're putting it all together. They might be required to chase down photographs and to do video content as well.
Yeah.
So they're time poor. It's not that they're lazy.
Yeah. They're just doing a lot of different jobs.
Yeah. And that was starting to happen even when I was full-time in journalism. I mean, there are opportunities out there, and there are still free opportunities, if you like. But like you say, you're more likely to get the free ones when you've put a bit of cash in the game.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is one of the reasons, one of the inquiries that always make me so nervous is when someone turns up and they just go, oh, we're doing this. Can you get us coverage? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll try.
Yeah. I mean, I
can do all the good stuff. I can turn up. We can do photos. We can do a press release. We can invite some people, but it's not necessarily. It doesn't mean you're getting coverage. If you asked me a year ago to start working with you, and we're building up to this event, then I could say with much higher certainty, yes, we'll get you something. But yeah, having said that, one of my best clients now it took us on based on that, and we did get him some coverage. But that was, I mean, you know, a great product. You know, a great product, great story. Most of the time, you can do something with it. It's when it's a little bit harder, then it takes a lot more donkey work.
Or it's common. Or I had someone recently who said, this is a game changer for the water industry. And it was an e-course. And I just thought, I cannot even...
That's not a game changer.
That's a game changer, really. It is in your own mind.
Yeah.
But not outwardly.
No, exactly.
But, so what is Burford Creative? What are your hopes for the rest of the year?
Just actually to continue doing really, really well for our clients. One of the things I'm most proud about is basically every single client we have is retained and they stay with us. Our churn rate on clients is almost zero. And I know my team love working with our clients, and I do too. And I just would like that to continue because we love watching businesses grow. That's the wins. We feel the wins as much as everybody else does. So yeah, just to carry on with that, really.
Marvellous. Well, look, Gemma, thank you so much for taking part today. And tell
Thank you for having me.
Everyone, how can they find you?
Easiest way, probably, website is burfordcreative.co.uk. I'm also on LinkedIn. That's the best place to find me. So just do a search for Gemma Finch.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode. Hop over to Gemma's LinkedIn if you want to chat to her, or to the Burford Creative's website, and you'll see who she works with and what she can do. If you want to find out more about me, it's scottmedia.uk, or hop onto Facebook, Fiona Scott's PR Tribe. Just mention this episode and I'll let you in. It's free. And I will see you again soon. Thank you for watching.